All right, so we haven't got to go over anything with the Megan Boswell case, but right now I'm going to. She was sentenced to a life sentence. She was found guilty on all charges. And, I do believe she deserves what she got. But there was some evidence that came forward that was kind of compelling. And her attorneys have already filed for an appeal, but I want to show you a few things real quick. Let me see what you think.
All right. Madam Foreperson, did the jury come to a unanimous decision for sentencing on counts 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you would deliver the verdict for count 1.
We, the jury, unanimously agree that the defendant shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life.
And did each member of the jury sign the form? All right. If that is each individual juror's verdict, please raise your right hand. Let the record reflect each juror raise their right hand. In count 2.
We, the jury, unanimously agree that the defendant shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life.
And did each juror sign the verdict form?
Yes, Your Honor.
If that is each individual juror's verdict, please raise your right hand. Record reflect that each juror has raised their right hand. And in both counts 1 and 2, did you find an aggravating circumstance?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And in count 3, did you reach a unanimous verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
And if you'll deliver that.
We, the jury, unanimously agree that the defendant shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life.
And did each juror sign the form?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you find an aggravating circumstance?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, if the verdict that's been delivered for count 3 is each individual juror's verdict, please raise your right hand. Let the record reflect that each juror has raised their right hand. General, do you desire an individual poll?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
At this time, I propose that we release the jury from this case. Any opposition from the state?
Yes.
Defense?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service. If you'll go with the office.
Now, this next part I want to play is just what the news anchors are saying about the case and what the attorneys went through and so on.
Boswell, a Sullivan County woman found guilty of killing her 15-month-old daughter after a verdict was reached earlier this week.
We know now that Boswell was previously offered a plea deal. Boswell was found guilty of first-degree murder and 2 counts of felony murder, among over a dozen other counts in the trial.
However, Boswell's attorney did file a motion for a new trial after the guilty verdict. News Channel 11's Ansley Daniel reports on what this means going forward. Ansley?
Well, Sarah and Casey, Megan Boswell's defense attorney Gene Scott wasted no time to file that motion for a new trial. It was actually filed at 2:44 p.m. yesterday. That's almost immediately following the jury deciding to sentence Boswell for life in prison for finding her guilty of the 3 felony murder charges. Now, despite being found guilty on all 19 of the charges, Scott says that prosecutors didn't have enough evidence to support the convictions. Local defense attorney Chris Bird says that you have 30 days to ask for a new trial, and getting the ball rolling is a task in itself, as Scott will have to get the transcript of the 8-day trial along with some of the pre-trial hearings over the last 5 years.
He'll have to, try to hone in on exact things that he thinks fits his theory regarding there not being enough evidence in the case, there being some sort of grounds for mistrial, anything he can do to try to get Ms. Boswell a new trial, essentially. But this process will be a lengthy one. It won't be something that's going to be wrapped up anytime soon.
Scott also claims double jeopardy on the 11 counts of false reports, and Bird says the defendant loses the presumption of innocence in the appeals process, so it typically goes in the state's favor. Now, we learned today from both Scott and the district attorney's office that there were talks of a plea deal and even some offers made ahead of the trial. We weren't given any specifics on those, but they obviously never came to an agreement.
Now, this next part I'm going to play is the most compelling part, It's about the male DNA that's found. So just read along. I'll see if I can caption.
Weighing the fate of a Sullivan County woman accused of killing her 15-month-old daughter. Megan Boswell faces a first-degree murder charge in connection to the death of her daughter, Evelyn. Today, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and FBI took the stand to talk about forensic evidence.
Were these prints that you obtained clear enough that you could make some sort of analysis or identification?
Yes, they were.
All right. And did you, in fact, make findings in that regard?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I was able to identify the fingerprint from the underneath the rim of the trash can to Megan Boswell's number 2 or right index finger.
News Channel 11's Ansley Daniel continues to sit in during the trial along. Ansley, a lot of significant information out there today that both you and Jeff Keeling saw, right?
Yeah, Sarah, you're absolutely right. It was a back and forth day inside of the courtroom here in Blountville for both prosecutors and the defense.
That's right, Ansley. But in the late morning, we saw what appeared to be a blow to the defense, and by the end of the day, we were seeing what looked to be important prosecution witnesses struggling under cross-examination.
Yeah, you know, defense attorney Gene Scott's hopes of creating reasonable doubt around her boyfriend Hunter Wood's potential role in Evelyn's death or disappearance did seem to take a hit when FBI agent Paul Durant reviewed some text communications between Megan Boswell and Wood. A December 27th text from Boswell to Wood appeared that it convinced Wood that Evelyn had been sent with her supposed father, Ethan Perry. The first of what appeared to be several examples of Wood being unaware of the truth that Evelyn was already missing.
Ethan and I talked, and he's going to stay home. And then it's followed by, he thinks that what would be best, also because I'm obviously not a very stable parent right now, and Evelyn doesn't want to come home with me.
The day wasn't over, though. Late this afternoon, it was the prosecution that was struggling for a conclusive result when they interviewed 2 forensic pathologists.
That's right. After Scott succeeded in getting medical examiner Matrina Schmidt to waffle on potential causes of Evelyn's death, beyond just homicide, the state brought on Darinka Malushnich to the stand. In a sometimes combative exchange with Scott, and under a threat of contempt of court from Judge Jim Goodwin, the doctor was forced to answer yes or no to a crucial question about whether, as the prosecution seems to want to claim, that Evelyn Boswell was alive when she was placed in a trash can.
Ma'am, yes or no, can you say conclusively that this child was alive or dead when it was placed in the blanket in the tinfoil?
The blanket, tinfoil, the trash can, which one? Okay, the answer is no. She could have been murdered a different way.
Thank you, doctor.
That came at the end of a long, tense day.
Yeah, it was kind of like a mic drop in the courtroom almost at that moment. You know, you kind of could see where Gene Scott knew that he was doing his job and doing it well.
That's right, but it was a kind of a mic drop filled day, and it's really difficult to determine what might be going on in jurors' heads at this point because they've seen a lot of not very convincing evidence from both sides, so I don't know how they're going to come out on this.
Yeah, and you know, as we look at these jurors, you know, you can kind of tell that this is all weighing on them. Some of them, they do look tired, they do look exhausted. I mean, they've been, you know, going over, you know, not all of this information and, you know, having to go home at night and think about all of this. So we'll see what happens next, but for now, court is in recess until 9 o'clock in the morning. We do expect prosecutors to
Just to be known, Hunter Wood has been in a insane asylum in Marion for the past 2 months leading up to the trial. Now I'm going to read this to you. The next 2 witnesses, Marla Gray and David Hoover, are both special agents with the TBI who work as forensic scientists in TBI crime labs, both qualified as experts in their fields, and shared the findings of their analysis in the case. Gray told the jury on a number of pieces of evidence DNA results were inconclusive. A piece of gum and a tissue inside the trash can Evelyn was found in both returned positive match to Boswell. She said Evelyn's DNA was found on several items in the pillows and clothing, and also